They thought he would never survive. They thought carrying an alien child through fire was suicide. But when the mother stepped forward and named her price for his life, something happened that no human or alien could ever forget. And in that moment, the galaxy learned a secret so shocking, so dangerous, so unthinkable, that even speaking it out loud could set entire worlds on fire in silence. Every star above them, forever the night sky, was no longer a sky. It was fire, smoke, and burning metal raining down like angry stars. Captain Joran Hayes staggered forward through the broken ruins of what had once been a proud city. But now nothing remained except shattered walls and screaming echoes. His armor was scorched, his lungs burned from the smoke, and every step felt like he was dragging the weight of entire worlds. Yet he did not stop, because in his arms he carried something small, fragile, and impossibly important. It was an alien child, no more than 6 years old in human eyes, her pale skin glowing faintly under the red light of destruction. Her strange golden eyes stayed fixed on him, wide and unblinking, as though she knew something he did not. The child made no sound. She did not cry, though the world was falling apart around them. She only held onto the fabric of his armor as if she trusted him completely. Though Joran himself had no idea why. He could hear the thunder of alien boots behind him, marching, hunting, closing in on the trail he left through the rubble. These were not the weak raiders he had fought before. These were soldiers bred for war, their weapons sharp, their armor glowing with symbols that shimmered in the smoke. They wanted the child. Joran did not know why they wanted her, but he knew if they caught her, something worse than death would follow. He did not think. He only moved, leaping over shattered beams, stumbling past walls that collapsed in showers of sparks, clutching the child close to his chest as if she were his own blood. Every sound was a reminder of how close death was. Whine of alien blasters lit up the smoke. The screams of men and women who could not escape filled the air like a broken choir. Somewhere above, a massive ship screamed as it fell from the sky, crashing into the horizon and setting it ablaze with unnatural light. Joran's throat burned, and his body screamed for rest, but his mind told him there could be none. Not while the child breathed. Not while her golden eyes still stared up at him like she had chosen him for something he did not understand. Then, as he ducked beneath the arch of a broken building, the child spoke. Her voice was not human, soft and melodic, carrying an echo. That should not have been possible in the smoke-filled night. She whispered a single word into his ear, a word he had never heard before. But the sound of it sent a shiver racing down his spine. It was not just a word. It was something older, heavier, something that felt like a key sliding into a lock hidden deep within his soul. He did not understand it. But the moment she spoke, the alien soldiers behind him froze in their steps. For the first time since the chaos began, they hesitated. Joran pressed onward, but his mind raced. What had she just said? Why did it make even trained killers falter? He had no answer, and there was no time to think. The ground trembled as another wave of explosions shook the city, flames bursting up from beneath the streets like the world. Itself was rejecting the battle. He kept moving, the child clinging tighter to him now, as if she knew the path through the fire better than he did. Her glowing eyes did not look afraid. They looked expectant, almost as if she had been waiting for this moment all along. When Joran finally stumbled into the open courtyard of what had once been a grand palace, he stopped. Not because his body could move no more, but because she was there. Standing tall among the ruins, her figure framed by smoke and fire, was a woman unlike any he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like polished obsidian, her hair a flowing silver waterfall that caught the light of burning buildings. She wore armor far more elegant than any soldier's, a design that spoke of command and power. Her beauty was undeniable, almost dangerous, carrying not only authority but also a kind of hidden fire that pulled the gaze and refused to release it. She was not simply another alien officer. She was someone higher, someone older, someone who looked at Joran not as prey, but as if she already knew him. The soldiers behind Joran stopped when they saw her. They did not march forward. They bowed their heads. In the silence of falling ash, only her voice carried. smooth, calm, and cutting through the smoke like a blade. "Human," she said, and though it was only one word, it carried weight enough to make his chest tighten. She did not order his death. She did not tell her soldiers to take the child. She only studied him, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if measuring him against something unseen. Joran tightened his grip on the child, heart pounding, trying to make sense of why the alien commander of an invading army was not killing him. Where? He stood. The woman tilted her head, a faint, almost amused smile playing at her lips. Then she said words that chilled him deeper than the fire ever could. "You do not know why she chose you, do you?" Joran froze. The child's golden eyes turned from him to the woman, then back to him, as if waiting for him to answer. He had no words. The woman stepped closer, the flames parting, as if they made way for her. Her soldiers watched in silence, not daring to interrupt. She raised her hand, graceful yet commanding, and pointed at the child in his arms. "Carry her," she said softly, her tones sharp as steel beneath velvet, "and I will tell you the price of your life." Joran's pulse thundered in his ears. A price. His life. What did that mean? Why was this child worth more than armies? Why did the alien woman look at him with such dangerous curiosity? He stood there in the ruined courtyard, holding a child who whispered words that shook armies, facing a woman whose beauty hid a demand that could change everything. He realized then that the fire around him was nothing compared to the fire of the mystery he had just stepped into, and though he could not yet see it, his choice to carry the child through the flames would set the galaxy itself on edge, and nothing would ever be the same again. The courtyard was still burning, but the flames seemed weaker where she stood. The alien woman moved forward with the slow grace of someone who had no fear of battle, no fear of death, no fear of anything that surrounded them, the ruined palace. Walls seemed to bend around her presence, as though even stone recognized her authority. Joran Hayes felt the weight of her gaze pressing down on him. He had fought commanders, warlords, and assassins across shattered worlds, but none of them had made his chest tighten like this. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was not beauty alone that unsettled him. It was the way she looked at him, like she already knew every choice he had made, and every choice he would make next. The child shifted in his arms, her golden eyes fixed on the woman, as though she recognized her. Joran felt the child's fingers curled tighter into his armor, a silent question in her grip. He had no answers. The soldiers behind him still stood frozen, waiting for the woman's command, their weapons lowered, but ready. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the crackle of fire and the low groan of collapsing stone. Joran's throat was dry, but he forced himself to speak. "Why are you here?" he asked. His voice was rough, broken by smoke, yet steady enough to carry across the courtyard. "Why not kill me and take her?" The woman's smile deepened slightly, though her eyes never softened. "Because death is easy," she said, "and what I want is not so simple." Her words slipped into the air like venom, smooth and deliberate. She stepped closer, her armor reflecting the firelight in shards of silver and crimson. Joran did not step back. His legs screamed for him to move, to run, but something inside him told him that if he moved even one step away from her, he would never return. The child pressed her face into his chest as though she could sense the danger that even he could not fully grasp. "You carried her through fire," the woman said, her tone low, almost admiring. "You did what no other would dare. Do you know why she clung to you, human? Do you know why her lips gave you that word?" Joran shook his head. He wanted to demand answers, but the weight of her gaze made the words feel smaller than they should. Have been. The woman's smile faded, replaced by something sharper. She pointed to the child, her eyes narrowing. "She chose you. That makes you mine." The words landed like a hammer. Joran tightened his grip on the child, anger rising in him despite his exhaustion. "I don't belong to you," he said, "and neither does she." For the first time, the woman's expression hardened. Her soldiers tensed, but she raised a hand and they froze in obedience. Her eyes locked onto his, black and endless, filled with something far deeper than rage. She was not offended by his defiance. She was intrigued. "You will," she said finally, "because there is a price for her life." and it is yours. Joran's jaw tightened. He had expected her to demand the child, to demand his surrender, to demand something he could fight against. But her words struck in a place he could not defend. A price for her life. His life. It was not a threat, it was a promise. The child lifted her head then, her golden eyes meeting Joran's face. She did not cry. She did not speak. But there was something in her gaze that made his heart pound harder. She knew what the woman meant. She had always known. "What do you mean?" Joran asked, his voice sharp now, edged with defiance. "Speak plainly." The woman tilted her head, her silver hair sliding across her armor. "Plain words cannot hold the weight of it," she said. "But I will tell you this. You carry something inside you that no other human carries. Something I need. Something she needs." Her eyes flicked toward the child. "The fire you ran through was not the test. The test begins now." Joran felt the ground shift beneath his boots as if the earth itself reacted to her words. He tried to mask the fear twisting in his stomach, but he could not hide the way his grip on the child grew tighter. His instincts screamed at him to run, yet his mind told him there was no escape. The woman stepped so close now that he could see the faint glow in her eyes, the trace of something inhuman that pulsed like fire behind her gaze. Hand almost touching the child's face, but Joran shifted his stance to block her. Her lips curved again, not in anger, but in satisfaction. "You are braver than most," she said softly, "but bravery alone will not save you." Joran tried to think. His mind raced through possibilities, strategies, anything that could give him an advantage, but nothing fit. This was not a battle he could win with weapons or fists. This was something else, something older, something that had waited long before he was born. The woman finally lowered her hand and stepped back, her silver hair catching the glow of the flames. She turned her gaze to her soldiers, then back to Joran. "Carry her," she said again, her voice steady, commanding. "Keep her alive. Protect her as you have done. Do this, and perhaps the galaxy will survive what comes next." Her tone shifted, darker now. "And you will curse not only your own blood, but every star you have ever looked upon." Joran's breath caught. The child's small hand slid up his chest, resting against his shoulder. She still did not speak, but her golden eyes never looked. Away from him, the woman's final words lingered in the smoke like chains. "You will learn the price soon enough, human. And when you do, you will beg to pay it." She stepped back into the shadows, her soldiers following, vanishing into the flames as if they were never there. Joran was left standing alone in the burning courtyard, holding the child who had whispered a word that froze armies, haunted by the promise of a price he did not understand. And in that moment, surrounded by ruins, he realized something more. Terrifying than death itself, the war was no longer about armies or planets. It was about him. The fire of the courtyard faded behind him, but its weight did not leave Joran's chest. He moved through the ruins like a man caught between two storms, clutching the child to him as if her small body was the only anchor left in a collapsing world. The alien woman's words echoed in his head with every step. "A price for her life, and it is yours." The sound of it rattled inside him, more dangerous than the flames, more haunting than the screams of battle. He did not understand why, but some part of him believed her. He found shelter in the shadow of a broken tower, the once proud spire now a jagged skeleton clawing at the night. The child sat on the ground beside him, her golden eyes glowing faintly, reflecting the distant fires. She looked fragile, almost too small to hold the weight of such destruction. Yet she did not tremble. She did not cry. With calm, steady eyes, as though she were waiting for something. Joran leaned against the cracked stone, pulling off his helmet, his face streaked with soot and sweat. His lungs ached, his muscles burned, and yet when he looked at her, he felt something deeper than exhaustion. He felt the weight of responsibility, heavier than any command he had ever carried. "Who are you?" he asked her softly, though he knew she might not answer. "Why do they want you so badly? Why did she call you mine?" The child tilted her head slightly, her small hands resting in her lap. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, in that same melodic voice that had chilled him in the courtyard, she spoke. Her words were soft, but the meaning landed like thunder. I am the key. Joran's chest tightened. The word meant little on its own, yet it explained everything, and nothing at the same time. He leaned closer, trying to hold her gaze. The key to what? He demanded. Tell me what they want from you. The child blinked once, slowly, as though she were listening to something far away, something only she could hear. Then she whispered another word, same word she had spoken to him before in the fire. It slid into his ears like a cold wind, sharp and ancient, and his skin crawled at the sound. He did not understand the language, but he felt its weight. Like a memory his blood had been waiting to remember, he repeated it aloud, hesitant, his voice echoing against the broken tower. Walls. The instant he did, the air shifted. The fire in the distance seemed to dim, and for a heartbeat, the night itself went silent. Joran froze. He had seen many things on battlefields, but never silence like this, silence that felt alive, silence that pressed against his chest and filled his skull with invisible weight. Then, from far above, came the deep hum of alien engines. Shadows moved across the burning horizon. Fleet. Not just soldiers, not just hunters, an entire armada rising from the clouds like monsters answering a call. Joran's blood ran cold. He had seen fleets before, but this was different. They were not gathering to burn what remained of the city. They were gathering because he had spoken that word. The child's golden eyes turned back to him, unblinking, calm as the world shook. They heard you, she said softly. Joran's throat went dry. His commanders had once told him of forbidden words, whispers of old codes hidden deep in alien languages, but he had never believed them. He had never believed a word could move. Armies. And yet here he stood, with a child at his side, watching a fleet respond to the sound of his voice. He dropped his helmet beside him and pressed both hands against the cracked stone, trying to steady his breathing. What are you? He whispered. What am I? The child's gaze softened slightly, and for the first time she looked almost human in her expression. You were chosen, she said. Joran laughed once, hollow and bitter. Chosen? I'm a soldier. I bleed, I fight, I follow orders. I'm not chosen for anything. The child shook her head, her golden hair catching the dim light. Not by men, not by armies. Chosen by something greater. That is why she wants you. Oren's mind spun with her words, but he could not hold on to them long. A distant roar. Cut through the night, the alien fleet was descending, drawn by the word he had spoken. Their ships blazed with red light as they tore through the smoke, searching, hunting. He grabbed the child's hand, pulling her close. We have to move, he said, forcing strength into his voice, though fear coiled in his stomach.
Oh, yes.
If they catch us, we're finished. They ran again through the ruins, the broken city trembling beneath the shadows of descending ships. Joran's body screamed with every step, but his grip on the child did not weaken. He carried her when she stumbled, shielded her when debris rained down, moved forward even when the ground itself split under the force of falling metal. And all the while the woman's words haunted him. A price for her life. And it is yours. Ours. Later, when the chaos finally quieted and he found refuge in the shell of an abandoned transport, Joran activated a weak-cum unit strapped to his wrist. Static filled the small space until a human voice broke through. Hayes, Captain Hayes, do you copy? Relief washed over him at the sound of his commander, but it was short-lived. He told them what he had seen, what the child had said, the words she had whispered. For a long silence, the cum line carried nothing. Then the commander's voice returned, colder than before. Hayes, you must not speak that word again. Do you understand me? If what you say is true, then the girl is more dangerous than you. Can imagine. Bring her in alive if possible. Do not trust her. Do not trust anyone who comes for her. Joran clenched his jaw. His own commanders feared her. They feared the word. They feared him. The child looked up at him as the cum went silent, her golden eyes filled with something he could not name. She reached out and touched his hand, her voice soft as wind in ruins. They will never let me live, she said. Not your people. Not mine. only you." Her words sank into him, heavy as stone. Joran closed his eyes, feeling the weight of her truth. He had carried her through fire. But the greater fire was only beginning, and as the alien fleet closed in and his own commanders marked him with suspicion, Joran realized the galaxy was not fighting for land or power or pride. It was fighting for her. And somehow, against all reason, against every law of war and survival, the fate of that child, this fragile, glowing, golden-eyed child, was now tied to his life, his blood, and his choices, and the price of protecting her had only just begun. The night stretched long and merciless. Joran Hayes had carried the child through fire, through ruins, through the roar of alien fleets. And now through silence so heavy it pressed against his skin like armor. They had found temporary safety. Inside a wrecked hangar buried beneath the remains of a collapsed tower. The roof was gone, leaving only twisted beams and scattered ash. But the walls shielded them from the roaming searchlights above. Joran crouched in the shadows, the child close to him, his hand resting on the hilt of his sidearm, though he knew it would not save them. If the fleets decided to descend again, the cum unit on his wrist had been silent since the last order. His commanders had spoken as though the girl were a weapon, or worse, a threat they could not control. Their tone had cut through him sharper than any blade. He had expected fear from aliens, but not from his own. Their suspicion lingered in his ears, heavy and poisonous. He knew what orders would come next. If the girl was not dead already, someone would be sent to make sure she did not live long enough to be dangerous. The child sat on the ground, knees tucked to her chest, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. She did not fidget, did not whimper. She only watched him with that strange stillness that unnerved him more than any enemy. When he finally met her gaze, she spoke. "They do not want to protect me," she said softly. "They want to use me, or kill me." Joran's jaw tightened. He did not want to admit she was right, but the truth was written across every word. His commander had given him. He leaned back against the wall, running a hand across his tired face. "You've made enemies on both sides," he said. "That's a rare gift." The child tilted her head, her golden hair falling across her cheek. "It is not me. It is what I carry." Joran frowned. "What you carry?" She placed a small hand over her chest, her voice dropping lower. "Power. The kind that ends wars. The kind that begins them." The words made Joran's stomach twist. He had seen power fleets that could burn cities, weapons that could shatter mountains, but the way she spoke made those things sound like toys. He wanted to ask her more, but the sound of boots outside cut him short. He froze, pressing a finger to his lips. The child nodded silently. They both crouched lower as shadows stretched across the broken walls. Human soldiers moved past the hangar, their voices sharp, their armor bearing the insignia of Joran's own fleet. He strained to hear their words, his heart pounding harder. With each passing second, "Orders are clear," one voice said. "If we find the child, terminate. If Hayes resists, terminate him too." Command doesn't trust him anymore. Joran's blood turned cold. His hand clenched into a fist so tight his knuckles burned. He had expected this from aliens. But from his own? The betrayal cut deeper than any wound. The soldiers passed without noticing them, their boots echoing against the rubble, until silence returned. Joran sat back heavily, his breathing rough. The child looked at him, her expression unchanged. "They fear you now," she said. He met her gaze, anger simmering beneath his exhaustion. "Fear me? I'm one of them." Her head tilted again, her voice calm, too calm for someone so young. "Not anymore. You spoke the word. It lives in you now. They know it. She knows it. That is why you are hunted." Joran pressed his hands into his knees, trying to steady himself, but her words struck too deep to ignore. He remembered the way the alien woman had looked at him, the way her soldiers had bowed when she arrived, the way her voice had carried certainty when she said he would pay the price. Now, even his own people treated him like an enemy. He felt the ground shifting beneath him, a line breaking that could never be repaired. "What am I?" he muttered, more to himself than to her. The child's golden eyes did not waver. You are human, but you are also more. He shook his head, frustration cracking through his voice. That's not an answer. The girl's small hands curled into fists, and for the first time, a faint glow shimmered across her skin, like golden veins of light rising to the surface. The air in the hangar grew warmer, pulsing with her breath. As the glow faded slowly, leaving her trembling but calm once more, "You are tied to me," she whispered, "and to her, your blood carries the key. That is why she wants you." Joran stared at her, his thoughts spiraling. His blood, his life. The alien woman's promise came back to him with full weight. The price for her life is yours. Not a metaphor. It was truth. She wanted him because of what flowed in his veins. He pushed himself to his feet, pacing the narrow space of the hangar, his mind burning with questions. Why me? Why not someone else? Why would a human soldier carry something that matters to your kind? The child did not answer. She only looked at him with quiet certainty, as if his questions were ones he had to answer for himself. That silence was worse than any truth. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Alien ships and human fleets were both repositioning, circling, like predators waiting for the right moment to strike. The war was no longer about territory or survival. It had twisted into something stranger, darker. Joran felt the weight of it pressing down on his shoulders as he stood in that broken hangar, staring at the child who had made him a target of two empires. The cum on his wrist flickered suddenly, and a voice hissed through the static. It was not his commander. It was her, the alien woman. Her tone was soft, almost intimate, yet every syllable carried power. You cannot run forever, Joran Hayes. Protect her, and you protect nothing. Give her to me, and I will show you what your blood is worth. Joran froze, his heart slamming against his ribs. The cum went dead, the silence louder than before. The child rose slowly to her feet, her eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. She did not look afraid. She looked expectant. Joran clenched, his fists staring at the ruined doorway where firelight flickered beyond. His commanders wanted her dead. The aliens wanted her alive, and the woman wanted him. For the first time in his life, Joran realized he could not trust either side. Not his people, not hers, not anyone. He had only himself, the child. But as the glow of her eyes met his in the darkness, he wondered if even she was more dangerous than he could ever understand. The ruins slept under a false calm, their broken walls glowing faintly in the light of burning skies. Joran Hayes had grown used to silence, but this silence was different. It pressed into his ears like a whisper, too heavy, too deliberate. Knew it was not the absence of sound. It was the pause before something greater arrived. And when the cum unit at his wrist flickered again, when her voice slid through the static, he understood exactly what that pause had been. Joran Hayes. The alien mother's words carried both warmth and threat, woven together so tightly, he could not separate them. You are lost in a storm not meant for you. But storms are not always death. Some storms carry destiny. Joran stiffened, his hand hovering over the cum. The child sat nearby, her golden eyes watching him in silence. She seemed to know the voice, seemed to sense the weight of every word spoken. Joran wanted to crush the device against the wall, to silence her forever, but something in him held back. Curiosity, or perhaps fear. You want her, Joran said, his voice low. And you want me? Why? The mother's voice rippled like music through the static. Because she is mine, and you are marked. You carry the word I spoke into your blood, though you do not understand it. That bond cannot be broken. It can only be fulfilled. Joran's fists tightened. Fulfilled how? Her laughter was soft, but it chilled him. There are many ways. You can give her back to me and live, or keep her and watch as your own kind burns you alive. They already hunt you. Do you hear their boots in the dark? Do you smell their fear of you? You are no longer one of them. They will prove it soon enough. Joran turned away from the cum, his teeth gritted. Every word she spoke was poison, but some part of it was true. His own soldiers had orders to kill him. His own commanders no longer trusted him. The betrayal was carved into his chest like a scar that would never heal. The child rose slowly, stepping closer to him. "Do not listen," she whispered. "She weaves traps with words." He looked at her, his face tight. "And you don't?" The child's golden eyes did not flinch. "I tell you nothing but truth. I cannot lie. That is why they fear me." Come flickered again, her voice slipping back into the space like smoke curling through cracks in stone. "She cannot lie, yes. But she does not tell you everything. That is her trick. She keeps the truth locked until you bleed for it. But me, I would give you all of it, soldier. I would tell you who you are becoming. I would tell you why you cannot walk away. I would tell you the price. But you must choose to hear it." The words wrapped around him like chains. He wanted to throw the cum into the fire and walk away. He wanted to hold the child close and swear that none of this mattered. But the mother's voice carried a pull that sank deeper with each syllable. His blood, his bond. His betrayal she spoke as if she had written his fate long before he was born. The ground shook suddenly as a blast thundered across the ruins. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the walls trembled under the shockwave.
No.
Grabbed the child's hand, pulling her close as another explosion rocked the ground. Searchlights swept across the ruins above. Human soldiers, alien patrols, both closing in from opposite directions. The mother's voice lingered, soft as a whisper. "They come for you. Both sides. Do you see now? You cannot run. You cannot hide. But you can stand with me. You can take the place I offer and live as more than a soldier. More than prey. It's more than human." Joran's heart pounded as dust swirled. Through the broken hangar, he could hear the voices outside, soldiers shouting orders, boots striking stone. The child clung to his arm, her gaze locked on the entrance where light flashed closer. Joran raised his weapon, though he knew it would do little against fleets and fire. His finger trembled against the trigger. "What do you want from me?" he demanded into the cum, his voice hoarse. "Say it. Stop circling me with riddles. What is the price?" Silence. Then slowly her voice returned, rich with triumph. "The price is your life. Joran Hayes, yours for hers." Blood for blood. That is the oldest bargain, and the only one that matters. Joran's chest burned as the truth struck him harder than any blast. She had said it before, hinted at it, but hearing it now shattered any last piece of denial. His life was bound to the child's. He could not protect her without giving himself away. He could not save her without paying the cost. The child's hand tightened around his. Her golden eyes glowed brighter, almost pleading. "Do not believe her," she whispered. "There is another way." Boots slammed against the rubble outside. Voices grew closer. Shadows stretched long across the broken doorway. Soldiers were coming from both sides, humans and aliens, their weapons drawn. Their orders the same. Find the child. End the threat. Joran raised his weapon higher, his breathing steady despite the storm inside him. He stood between the child and the world beyond the doorway, knowing both sides wanted them destroyed, knowing neither could be trusted. He glanced once at the cum, the mother's voice still lingering like smoke in the air. Then he looked at the child. Her small frame trembling, but her eyes burning with impossible light. In that moment, Joran realized he was no longer fighting for orders, no longer fighting for survival. He was fighting for something far stranger, something that made the galaxy tremble. And as the first soldier stepped into the light, raising his weapon, Joran understood what the mother had really given him. Not choice, not mercy. A game, and he was already playing it. The first soldier stepped through the broken archway, his shadow long across the cracked floor. His visor glowed pale blue, the barrel of his rifle already raised. Behind him came more shapes in armor, boots pounding stone, voices shouting in unison. And above them, on the other side of the ruins, alien searchlights swept down, cutting sharp beams through dust and smoke. For a single instant, both armies faced each other in silence. And in that silence, Joran Hayes felt the universe hold its breath. He had fought battles before, had led men through fire and seen them die screaming. But this was different. This was not war. This was a trap snapping shut around him. He and the child were not soldiers or civilians in this moment. They were prey. And both hunters had arrived at the same time. Target in sight, a human voice barked. Orders are clear. Eliminate. A hiss echoed from the other side. Alien. Throats weaving their words into a chorus. Child must not leave these ruins. Kill the carrier. Joran's heart hammered against his chest as he pulled the child behind him. He raised his weapon, though he knew the truth. One rifle was nothing against two armies. Dust and smoke curled around him like ghosts, and for the first time he wondered if this was where his story ended. The cum at his wrist crackled, her voice flowing like oil into his ears. Now you see, Joran Hayes, you are not theirs. You are not mine. You are between. And only in fire is truth revealed. Then the fire came. The first volley thundered through the ruins, blinding bursts from both sides. Human rifles spat blue bolts of plasma, while alien cannons screamed molten fire. Stone shattered, steel melted. The walls collapsed in burning fragments. Joran threw himself down with the child clutched tight, the shockwave slamming through his body. The ruins became a furnace, light and heat tearing through every shadow. Screams echoed. Human soldiers fell. Aliens shrieked as rubble crushed them. But neither side stopped. They fired at each other, and at him, and at the girl. She cried out as a beam scorched the ground inches from her, golden eyes wide with fear and fury. Joran rose again, his voice a growl in his throat. He fired into the chaos, his shots tearing through smoke, hitting armor and flesh. He dragged the child with him, weaving through collapsing stone, using fire and shadow to cover their path. But everywhere he turned, soldiers closed in. He was no longer a soldier. He was prey in a pit. And then the betrayal struck like a blade. A voice he knew cut through the storm. Hayes. Through the smoke, he saw them his own squad. Faces. He had trained with men he had bled beside. Their armor carried the same insignia as his own. For a heartbeat, hope flickered in him. Maybe they had come to pull him out. Maybe not everyone had turned against him. But then he saw their eyes behind the visors. Cold. Empty. Fixed on him as if he were nothing more than a target. The man at the front, Sergeant Keller, raised his rifle. Orders are orders. Step away from the child. Joran's chest burned. Keller, listen to me. She isn't what they say. She isn't a weapon. But Keller didn't blink. Step away, Hayes. Now. The child clutched his arm tighter, her voice trembling. They will kill you. They will kill me. The cum crackled again, the alien mother's voice dripping with triumph. Do you see? Your own kind has no room for you now. You are theirs no longer. Joran's breath came sharp and heavy. He raised his rifle toward the squad he had once called brothers. His hand shook, but his voice was steady. If you want her, you'll have to take her from me. The world exploded again. Alien fire rained down, cutting through the squad, tearing men apart in bursts of red flame. Screams filled the ruins as both sides clashed with savage fury. Every step a battle, every breath a knife. The ground split open from the bombardment. Fire pouring through cracks like blood from the earth itself. Then it happened. The child stumbled, falling hard against the stone, her hands pressed into the ground, her body shaking, her golden eyes wide and burning. Light spilled from her skin, first faint, then blinding, a glow that cut through smoke and fire. Soldiers on both sides froze, their weapons lowering. Even Joran stumbled back, shielding his eyes from the brilliance pouring out of her. The air vibrated with a low hum deep enough to rattle bones, and then the fire shifted. The flames that had devoured the ruins bent toward her, curling like serpents, drawn as if she commanded them. The soldiers shouted in panic, their weapons firing wildly now, but the fire did not obey them. It obeyed her. She rose slowly, her small frame bathed in impossible light. The flames spiraled around her, wrapping her in a crown of fire. Her voice cut through the chaos, no longer trembling, no longer weak. Do not touch him. The soldiers hesitated, fear etching into their faces. Even the aliens, who had hunted her with relentless hunger, backed away as if they stood before something divine. Joran's heart thundered as he stared at her, his breath stolen by what he saw. She was not a weapon built by hands. She was not a secret experiment. She was something far older, far greater. The mother's voice came again, soft and victorious. Now you see what she is, Joran Hayes. Now you understand why her price is everything you are. The galaxy will not allow her to live. But you may yet choose. The ruins burned. Soldiers screamed. The child stood wrapped in living fire, her golden eyes piercing through the smoke. And Joran knew then that every step he had taken, every betrayal he had suffered, every voice whispering in his ears, all of it, had led to this moment. The galaxy had seen her power. It would never forget. The ruins burned long into the night. Flames crawled up broken walls, casting wild shadows that twisted like living things. Smoke turned the air heavy, every breath dragging ash into the lungs. Joran Hayes stood in the center of it all, the child, still clutching his arm, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Around them, bodies lay scattered, human and alien alike. Their war silenced by something none of them had been ready to face. The girl had not spoken again since the fire. Obeyed her. She was trembling now, as if the power had drained her to the edge of collapse. Her head rested against his shoulder, fragile and small, so human and yet not. Joran's grip tightened. He had carried her through fire before, but this was different. She was not just a child. She was the storm itself. Above them, ships drifted like vultures in the sky, lights glowing faint and watchful. Neither side dared descend. They had seen what she could do. They had seen her call fire from the very earth. Now they waited, and Joran knew what they were waiting for. The cum at his wrist whispered again, the alien mother's voice curling into him like smoke. You understand now, don't you? Why I named the price. Why I said only your life would balance hers. His jaw tightened. She's a child. No, the voice whispered, soft and merciless. She is a crown of fire walking. She is death and rebirth together. Left in human hands, she becomes a weapon. Left in alien hands, she becomes a tool. Left alone, she consumes herself and the worlds around her. That is why she is mine. That is why I will take her back. Joran looked down at the girl. She stirred in her sleep, her small fingers gripping his armor. She looked harmless, innocent. But he had seen the flames bend to her will. He had seen grown men drop their weapons in terror. He had seen entire armies hesitate because of her. He spoke through clenched teeth. You wanted her so badly, why didn't you protect her yourself? Why leave her in these ruins? Why let her burn like this? There was a pause. Then the mother's voice came lower, darker, because I cannot touch her. She is blood of mine, yes, but fire rejects its own bearer. My life would be the first. She consumes. Only a stranger's hand can carry her. That is why I chose you. Joran's breath caught. He stepped back without thinking, his boots crunching on shattered stone. You chose me, yes? She whispered. Long before you knew, long before you even set foot on this world. I knew, because only a man who carries the weight of his own betrayals could carry her, only one who has already walked through. Fire could hold the flame without being destroyed. That is why I said her price was your life. Because to save her, you must burn. The words cut through him. For a long moment, Joran could only hear the crackle of flames around him and the sound of his own pulse in his ears. He wanted to scream at her. He wanted to demand answers, to refuse the chains she was trying to wrap around him. Deep down, he already knew she wasn't lying. He could feel it every time the child's small hand clung to him. Every time. Her power stirred close to the surface. She was too strong to be left unguarded. too dangerous to be abandoned. And yet, she was still just a child. The silence stretched until the night itself seemed to lean closer. Then a voice broke it, sharp and human, from the shadows of the ruins. Hayes. Joran spun, rifle raised. From the smoke, another squad emerged. Not the men who had betrayed him earlier, these were different. Faces he didn't know, armor carrying the insignia of the fleet. "Ah, there!" Commander stepped forward, visor lifting to reveal a scarred face. Eyes like steel. "You've done enough," the commander said. "We'll take it from here." His gaze flicked to the child. "She doesn't belong in your hands." Joran's finger tightened on the trigger. "You've seen what she can do. You know she won't let you take her." The commander's jaw clenched. "Then she'll die. It's better that than falling into alien hands. Better that than burning whole worlds." The child stirred again, her eyes opening. She whispered his name, her voice small and frightened. "Joran, don't let them take me." His chest twisted. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to shield her, to carry her once more through. Fire and death if he had to. But he could still hear the mother's voice, lingering like smoke. "Her price is your life." Behind him, the alien come hissed louder, her tone urgent. "Choose Joran Hayes. Give her to them, and she dies a weapon. Keep her, and you burn. Give her to me, and she lives. But not as you know her. 3 choices. None of them clean, none without blood." The soldiers leveled their rifles. Alien ships above lowered in the sky. The ruins shook as if the earth itself waited for his answer. Joran stood frozen, the girl's hand locked in his, the weight of her future pressing down heavier than any battlefield he had ever faced. His voice, when it came, was hoarse but steady. "No one touches her." Raised his rifle, firelight glinting off the barrel. The girl's golden eyes flared, the flames around them answering. And in that instant, the ruins became the center of the galaxy's greatest secret. Because Joran Hayes had chosen, and the galaxy was about to learn what. His choice meant the night split apart, not with weapons, not with orders, not with war cries, split with a single scream, the child's voice rising like a broken star, trembling with fear and power. Her golden eyes burned brighter, and the flames all around. The ruins surged like a living sea. Soldiers stumbled back, their rifles shaking in their hands. The alien ships above drifted lower, their lights flickering nervously, as if the machines themselves felt the fear. Joran Hayes held her tight, every muscle in his body straining. He could feel the fire licking against his skin, pressing closer and closer. The heat should have killed him already. But it hadn't. Not yet. The alien mother's words came back, sharp as a blade in his mind. "Only a man who has walked through fire can carry her." He was walking through it now. The human commander barked orders, shouting for his men to fire. But when the rifles rose, the flames twisted around, snapping into whips of light that slapped the barrels aside. A wall of heat rose between the squad and Joran, forcing them back. Their eyes flickered with fear. They'd been ready to kill. A child, yet in that moment, they looked like children themselves, cornered by something they could not understand. From the cum at Joran's wrist, the alien mother's voice pushed through the static, urgent and sharp. "Bring her to me now. This power cannot be contained, not by you, not by them. If you wait, she will burn everything." Joran gritted his teeth, his heart hammering. He could feel the girl trembling against him, whispering his name over and over. "Don't let them take me. Don't let them take me." Her small voice was breaking apart with terror, and yet the fire roared louder with every word. He looked into her eyes, and for just a moment, he saw past the fire. A child who wanted nothing more than safety, nothing more than someone to hold her and promise she wouldn't be left alone again. He had seen too many like her, scattered across battlefields, broken by wars they had never chosen. He had carried too many memories of children abandoned to Ashdod, and he knew he could not give her to the humans. They would break her apart, study her, turn her into a weapon that would light the galaxy in endless war. He could not give her to the aliens either. Her own mother had said she could not touch her without dying. She would hide the girl away, bury her light in shadow, or worse, use her for her own empire's hunger, which left only one choice: himself. His chest ached as the truth sank in. The price had always been his life. That was the balance. That was the path. He could carry her fire until it consumed him, until nothing remained but ash. Maybe then, maybe only then, she could be free. The alien mother's voice turned sharp. Joran Hayes, do not be foolish. You think you can hold fire forever? You cannot. You will die, and when you do, she will burn the stars. He lifted his head toward the ships above, his voice cutting through the roar of flames. Maybe I can't hold her forever, but I can hold her long enough. Long enough to teach her what none of you ever tried to choice. Long enough to make sure she knows she isn't alone. The girl clutched him tighter, her eyes wet now, her voice small. You'll stay with me? His throat burned, but he forced the words out steady until the end. And with that, he stepped forward. The fire did not fight him. It followed. It curled around him like a cloak, blazing higher and higher, as if it recognized him not as prey, but as bearer. The soldiers lowered their rifles in disbelief. Commander stumbled back, his scarred face pale in the light. Even the alien ships above pulled higher, their engines flaring in retreat. For the first time, both sides saw the same thing: a human man walking through a storm of fire. Carrying the future in his arms, the cum cracked once more, the mother's voice breaking with something almost like sorrow. So you choose ash, Joran Hayes. Then ash you will have. But he did not answer. He kept walking, through the ruins, through the night, carrying the child who clung to him like he was the only star left in the dark. Behind him, the ruins collapsed into cinders. Ahead of him stretched only uncertainty, only danger, only a path that could end in fire. Yet as the galaxy watched in silence, one truth burned brighter than all the rest. He had chosen, not power, not empire, not fear. He had chosen her, and in that choice, the galaxy trembled. Because it had never seen fire carried by human hands before, the story of Joran Hayes and the child would spread. Whispered in the shadows of fleets and the halls of alien courts, some would call him a fool. Some would call him a savior. But all would remember the night a man carried fire through the ruins and defied both armies. And somewhere, deep in the silence after the flames, a golden-eyed child whispered his name, as if it was the only word strong enough to hold her world. Together,